Welcome to Mature Living, a program dedicated to embracing the needs of older adults. I'm Ann Hall. On today's show, we'll be discussing the village movement, a phenomenon that's been sweeping the nation, which allows people 50 or older to age gracefully in their homes that they've lived in for most of their lives. Every year since 1963, our nation has celebrated Older Adults Month, where we honor our aging population for their endless contributions to our community. Older Americans are active and influential members of our society. Unleash the Power of Age was this past year's theme, where elders were asked to think how they could volunteer their time and support someone in need or share the wisdom they'd honed over the years to future generations. One way older adults throughout the United States are unleashing the power of age is by joining the village movement. Neighborhoods are forming villages within their own communities where people help each other so they can continue living in the same neighborhood they've always known. Joining us today to discuss the village movement and how Fairfax County is supporting older adults to age in place is Patricia Rohr, the Long-Term Care Program Developer and Facilitator for the Long-Term Care Coordinating Council. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Patricia, tell us about the village movement, what it is and how it began.
Well, the Villages is basically a grassroots movement where neighbors, primarily between the age of 65 and 75, come together and they create a service structure or model for themselves so they can age in their homes as long as possible. And generally what they do is they first come up with a list of services that they identify that they need, and these can be things like transportation to the doctor or to the grocery store. It could be home health services, it could be a reliable home repairman, and so on. And then what they do is they either create a core of volunteers to provide these services to their neighbors, or they will vet service providers and have like a preferred list of folks that they would use for these services. And there's some wonderful benefits to villages. Creates volunteerism. It's sort of a natural way for neighbors to get to know each other and then respond to their needs. In many cases, it can delay institutionalization and also provide support to caregivers. And one thing that I really like about the village movement is that it gives the older adults in their neighborhood the opportunity to choose what services they want and how they're going to receive them.
Oh, that's lovely. There are many different types of villages. Can you describe some of the villages?
Sure, there's a saying out there, Anne, that says when you've seen a village, you've seen a village. So that implies that they're all very different. However, there's kind of three general types that have emerged, and I'll describe them briefly. One is the concierge model, one is the all-volunteer model, and one is what we call the neighborhood network model. Now, the concierge model is where they will set up a nonprofit and they'll vet service providers, they'll have membership fees, and they'll hire staff so that a member can just pick up the telephone and, you know, like you would call the concierge at the front desk of a hotel and say, I need thus and such, and then it's provided for them. So that's one model. And the second model is the all-volunteer model. And that model, it has no paid staff, has no vetted service providers, and all of it is done through community volunteers. And then the third model is called the neighborhood network model. And this model does not necessarily set up programs. What it does is identifies what exists, informs folks of what exists in the neighborhood, and then where they identify needs, they go to community-based organizations and try to get them to ramp up or develop services to try to fill those needs. Now, one thing all three models do have in common is they all provide socialization activities.
And what are some of those socialization activities?
Well, in one case, one of our villages has monthly potluck meals where folks bring a dish, come together and get to know each other. Some of them will plan trips into the museums and sometimes have parties and, you know, that type of thing.
Great. Oh, that's great. Great. Tell me about Fairfax County villages. How many are in Fairfax County?
Sure. In Fairfax County, we currently have 9 that are either fully operationalized or in some phase of development. And the first one began here in 2007. And we have 2 concierge models, one in Mount Vernon called Mount Vernon at Home, another one called Lake Barcroft Village. And then we have 2 neighborhood network models. One is in Reston, that's called Reston for a Lifetime, and then one is in McLean called the McLean Village. And then we have 3 all-volunteer models. One is called Franklin Park, and one is Reston Useful Services Exchange, and then the third one is in Mosby Woods called Mosby Woods Village. And there might be others that we're not aware of because this is a grassroots, you know, bottoms-up kind of approach. So it's not necessarily that we're going out and identifying communities and creating them. And one thing that's emerging that to me is very exciting is a lot of homeowners associations are beginning to look at adding villages on to their, you know, membership. And I think that's a very natural kind of structure within which to develop these.
That's wonderful. So how do these villages work with county government?
Okay, Fairfax County provides information and guidance or technical assistance to citizens that wish to develop villages. So this can be anything from just meeting with a few folks and saying, here's a couple of models to look at. It can go all the way up to helping them create a large neighborhood forum where we showcase villages, and we've had some where up to 200 people attend. It can be anything in between where we just help them develop their marketing plans, help them develop their business plans, their community assessments, and that type of thing.
So how can someone start a village in their own community? What steps, are there steps that they go through or forms that they need to fill out?
Not necessarily forms, because this is from the grounds up. I would say if you want to start a village, just begin to talk to your neighbors and identify who's elder in your neighborhood or who's someone who might have a disability and have some type of needs, and try to just see if you can encourage people to get to know each other, come out of their houses and know what the needs are, and then kind of see if folks are interested in responding to them. When you asked me, Ann, about what the county is doing for the villages, I forgot to mention that the other thing we really like to do is listen to them. And so we try to engage them in what is it that you're hearing the needs are in the community, what are the challenges with your villages, because they're really the boots on the ground, you know, they know what's going on. So we try to work together and collaborate then to try to meet those challenges and fill those needs.
Very good. Let's take a quick look at how the Reston Useful Services Exchange is adapting to the movement.
Reston Useful Services Exchange is, in effect, a time bank. So people would do exchanges on a non-professional level, like maybe plumbing, changing light bulbs. And what we do is we keep track of all of these exchanges by hour increments. So you don't pay anything. You just say, I've earned an hour today, it goes into the bank. When I need something, I can call on my neighbor without feeling I have to pay back in any special way. Actually, I can draw from any talent, and we consider all talents the same. Reston is growing at a rapid rate, and we need to keep neighbor to neighbor going. We've got to be an interconnected network for everybody. I've taken 2 people for cataract surgery, sat with them in the hospital, comforted them, brought them home, saw that they had food, took them back the next day for the follow-up. It's that sort of thing that we're talking about. If you have a limited family in the area, you serve as family, as extended family. Their deep friendships result. And I think that's the biggest deal of all.
What makes Reston Useful Services Exchange Village unique?
Useful Services Exchange, which they call USE, is unique in that it's the most intergenerational of our Fairfax County villages, and it's also the only time bank variety that we have. And so time bank means that when you volunteer to give a service to someone, then you bank the hours, and then you can get any service, any volunteer service back in exchange for that. So, for example, if you walk the neighbor's dog, then maybe 2 weeks from now you might need a ride to the doctor, so you can cash in those hours. So that's kind of unique about it's an all volunteer model, but that's a unique aspect. And the other thing I like about Reston Useful Services Exchange is that if someone you know, is seeking something to volunteer and perhaps they don't have the same ability to do something, say for example they can't drive a car, they will find a volunteer opportunity for them, and it might be making telephone calls, it might be helping to organize the next community social event.
Are there fees associated with the Reston Useful Services Village?
Reston Useful Services Exchange, I believe, has a membership fee of $10 a year. It's very nominal, so this is really an all-volunteer model.
Isn't that great? So how can county residents find out more information about villages such as the Reston Useful Services Exchange?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because we would like residents to know that there are resources for them if they want to set up one of these. So I would say that we can direct them to the website, and if you go on the county's main website, which is www.fairfaxcounty.gov, and then you'll see there's a older adult link there. You click on that, and then in there you'll be able to click on villages, and will come up a page of information reviewing what I'm sharing today, and also provides contact information for all of the 9 villages that I mentioned in Fairfax County. And then there's also contact information to reach me.
Patricia, is there anything else that you'd like to add to the conversation today?
I would just encourage the viewers to look around their neighborhood, the block next door, across the street, around the corner, and just see if there's some older folks in their neighborhood that might be in need of something, and then begin to have the conversation with others about trying to address those needs.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Sharon Lynn, Director of the Fairfax County Area Agency on Aging, gave us an up-close interview on how Fairfax County is supporting older adults to age in place.
Fairfax County has a great number of services. We're really blessed with many services to help the community. We have insurance counseling to help people with Medicare Part D and all the changes that are coming up with the managed care organizations. There's going to be help for them as well. So there's adult day health care that's provided by the health department for people with more intensive needs who need a day program. There's a plethora of services that you can see, that people can go to the Fairfax County website and look at the older adults page and see all the county services regardless of what department they're in. And this is really an outgrowth of the 2007 50-plus plan. And that was more looking at consolidating the way that people can get information so it's easiest for the public. But one of the other most important things that people need is that when they have a particular family issue, or they need help for their spouse or their mother or father, it's usually a very complicated situation, and there's maybe siblings involved or other people. And older adults have medical issues along with, they may have depression, other issues like that. So they're very complicated and they need to talk to someone who's an expert. So we have one number in the county for older adults, adults with disabilities and caregivers. And it's our intake line that is housed at the Area Agency on Aging and Adult and Aging Services, but it can provide information about all kinds of older adult services, whether county, whether nonprofit, whether private services in the community. So this is all wonderful, and these services back up what the villages are doing.
Up next, we'll meet Ann Cook, who made great strides in forming Lake Barcroft Village.
Community immunity. It means everyone who can get a flu vaccine should get one every year to protect yourself, your family, your friends, and your community.
Community immunity. Because when you get a flu vaccine, you stay well, so you don't spread flu viruses to those around you, especially those most at risk.
Community immunity. Do your part. Get a flu vaccine this year, every year. Learn more at fairfaxcounty.gov/flu.
Well, I see the house on the corner finally sold. I wonder who our new neighbors are going to be.
I heard it's going to be a group home for people with disabilities.
Really? Why weren't we notified? We have a right to know who'll be living there. And doesn't the HOA rules only allow single-family homes and no businesses?
Under fair housing laws, group homes for residents with disabilities are considered single-family residences and not commercial facilities. As with any other family moving into the community, there is no requirement for the group home or its residents to provide notification or share medical information. A group home is someone's residence. People with disabilities living in group homes have a right protected under federal and Fairfax County laws to live anywhere they choose. Housing discrimination is unfair and against the law. If you suspect housing discrimination or need additional information, contact the Office of Human Rights and Equity Programs, Human Rights Division at 703-324-2953, TTY 711.
Fairfax County strives to provide the highest quality emergency services to protect the lives, property, and environment of our community. Our high-risk residents with medical needs are especially vulnerable during a crisis situation. Fairfax County agencies and emergency personnel want to communicate with these residents about emergency preparedness planning and to provide evacuation and shelter during an actual emergency. We encourage those with temporary or chronic health conditions who cannot manage for themselves in a general shelter or evacuation center and their caregivers to sign up with the Medical Needs Registry. All information will be kept confidential. For more information about the Medical Needs Registry, go to fairfaxcounty.gov. Under e-Services, click on Special Needs Registry and go to Individuals Register with Medical Needs Registry. There you can sign up online or download forms to mail in, or you can call 703-324-9000.
Welcome back to Mature Living. I'm Ann Hall, and we are discussing how older adults can unleash their power by participating in the Village movement. Joining me is Ann Cook, who played a major role in forming Lake Barcroft Village. Ann, welcome.
Thank you, Ann.
How did you get involved in the organization of Lake Barcroft Village?
Well, I thought it was a good idea, and I began talking to a few friends. We found sort of a core group, and we called it a task force, and we got started investigating what one would look like in our community. We held two meetings, large public meetings, one in the afternoon, one in the evening. The afternoon for those who no longer drive at night, the evening for those who were busy during the day. We explained what a village was, what one might be like in our community. The response was overwhelmingly positive. We had at least 60 people at both of those meetings.
So how will you decide who's going to be a part of this village and what kinds of services that you're going to offer?
Well, the village was always contemplated to be contiguous with our homeowners association. So that got rid of one problem right there. And the services we will provide and are providing now, because we really did get going, are transportation and general help around the house with not with continuing responsibilities like cleaning the kitchen, but with if you need a light screwed in, something like that. We vet certain services, providers, those who are of a particular interest to older residents, and we have a lot of social functions and programs. We found that they're extremely important.
And what kinds of social programs do you offer?
We have a neighborhood walk once a month. We have a happy hour, very well attended, from 5 to 7 one night a month. It's one where you bring a bottle of wine or an appetizer or whatever else. I don't drink wine, so I bring Pellegrino. And we just talk and mingle. We have programs such as on decluttering, on memory, those kinds of things. And we'll continue to develop more of them as we find what our members really are interested in.
That's wonderful. As you know, Mount Vernon at Home Village has been around for a while. Let's take a look and see how residents from Home Village have been embracing this movement for the past few years.
We joined Mount Vernon at Home basically for insurance purposes. Our two oldest sons, who are most capable, one lives in the West Coast and the other one's just moved to Hawaii. So as we age, we cannot really depend upon for local services or help. And this organization is designed to help us just stay in our own homes as long as we feel comfortable.
So we are a volunteer-first organization, and we have volunteers that help members in our community get to doctor's appointments and grocery stores and provide social, opportunities.
And the other thing is that we have providers of services, companies that we've screened, and we know they're reliable and they give us good service and at a good price. And all we do is call the office if we need a plumber or electrician or whatever, and they'll set us up.
We help our members as they age if they need more assistance in the home. Physically, home health providers. We have great partners within the community that we can refer our members to. So it's also about aging in place. A lot of folks have to give up driving, either by choice or physically are not able to do this anymore. To stay socially connected means to be able to get to your doctor's appointments or to the grocery store, go out to out to dinner with friends, or being involved in your community that you've always been involved in. So transportation's the biggest component of what we do, provide probably 75% of our requests. And then the other component is keeping socially connected and making sure that people are not home alone, lonely, isolated, and providing avenues, whether it's volunteers going in. Technology is a huge component. We just had a tech class.
I have some technical experience, but there's a lot of people here who just don't feel comfortable with the new technology, and we've set up these tech lessons so that people can learn how to use their iPhones, iPads, or computers.
Our organization has grown significantly every year, and it's about any new business that starts, and the business community and the community at large has a vested interest, and because the trends are people don't move from this community anymore. They don't retire to Florida. They want to stay in their homes, and so we're helping enable that. So our community has really embraced it.
Welcome back. Anne, in talking with Patricia, we learned that there were 3 different models for these kinds of communities. What model is the Lake Barcroft community?
We chose the concierge model after quite a bit of deliberation. And the membership fees that we finally agreed to or decided upon were $750 for a household. That's 2-person membership.
And that's an annual fee?
Yes, these are annual, and a $500 fee for an individual. And how we went about deciding that was we held a number of coffees. We didn't call them coffees, but small groups throughout our community to find out what people really wanted, how much they were willing to spend on this service, and that's how we came up with those figures. And then what we found was, in addition to getting money for the dues, we had to run on the cheap, because you're operating at this point just on donations in kind and monetary donations from the people who are really pushing this, the task force. We needed a lawyer who would do our articles of incorporation. We needed someone who had financial background, who could do an IRS filing, 501c3 is what you call it, which allows you to take donations that are tax deductible to the donor. We needed someone who could edit, write, graphics, because we had to put out brochures and informational sheets. We needed somebody who was conversant with IT, computers, database management. And we were fortunate enough to get one of our members to himself learn and put together a website so that we had a means of communicating and showing to the rest of the world that we really were serious.
Right, right. Gives you a lot of credibility.
Yeah. So that's how we got going. Our total expenditures for until the first of the year when we became operational were $11,987. So we really did it on the cheap.
Now, you're so fresh from this startup. Is there any advice that you'd like to offer our viewers or any additional information you'd like to share with us today?
Well, I guess my advice would be persistent. Just keep going, one foot in front of the other, and cast a net as wide as you can. Take in everyone who says they might be interested. Really ring them up until they are interested.
Good advice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I'd like to thank our guests, Patricia and Anne, for being on our show today. I also would like to thank the viewing audience for joining us. If you would like more information on the Village Movement or county services for older adults, please visit www.fairfaxcounty.gov/DFS/Older Adult Services or call 703-324-7948, TTY 711. Until next time, this is Ann Hall for Mature Living. Thank you for joining us.